Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of the WTC. This is where things are starting to get real interesting. Thanks for tuning in to the studio stream. I'm Joker of Contact Lost, and with me I've got the wonderful entourage, starting with Nathan Roberts.
Hi guys, hopefully me and Typhus here will be giving you the expert commentary on some of the matches that are going to be happening today.
I'm Typhus from Static, and I also hope will be valuable.
And I'm Other Nathan, also known as StatStat, also from StatCheck. And now that I've just gotten our X-loaded data from the last round of yesterday, we'll be doing some stats coverage for pre-next round. And then we'll have stats coverage from me on some interesting topics, mostly because I keep wanting to pester you guys with Eldar news and GSC news. But we'll see if we can pull out some other stuff now that we've started Swiss play.
Okay, I didn't know the guys were going to introduce themselves, so that's comes as a bit of a surprise to me. We've also got Tweak of Contact Lost at the tech desk. And guys, let's dive right in. So do we want to start with stats from yesterday, or?
So we won't do stats for yesterday. We'll do those a little bit later, just because there was a little bit of a delay with getting some stuff together. But we'll go into pairings, and then we'll talk missions.
Sure. Let's do that.
So for pairings today, in case people missed it, we're going to go through the Swiss round. So this is where things get serious, heated, and a lot tighter when we get teams that are coming out of their pods a lot closer. So today on table 1, and we'll be streaming on War Games Live today, is England and Austria.
Quite a surprising matchup, to be fair, because both of the teams drew their respective matches yesterday, so they end up playing against each other. So that one I find very interesting because Austria seems way better than they used to be. So, but I think overall it's still favored for England.
Austria did outscore Netherlands, right, in their pot.
Yes. Yes, they did, yeah. Because we'll go on to it later, but they're playing who we just played. Yeah, England into Austria. Very interesting match. We played them last year. It was a tight game that round, so it should be a good round.
And on table 2, we have Poland and Sweden. These are two of the teams that went 3-0 coming out of their pods. So this is two totally undefeated teams with no draws going into each other.
So yeah, historically, this has always been one of those top-level battles. Back in the day when it was the round robin of Sweden, Germany, and Poland, seeing who was going to win the event. So I think Sweden's gone up and down since those days. Poland stayed near the top.
And it can be visible because I went to the Swedish players and I spoke with Scar. Last time we played them was in 2012.
Oh wow, so it's been a while then.
The last time Poland played Sweden.
Okay.
Because I couldn't recall any time I played at the event, I played Sweden, which now makes sense.
And then on table 3, we have Spain and Netherlands. Both teams, again, with draws. These are going to be streamed on a channel, that the name of which I'm now forgetting.
El Cobrador.
Cobrador. They'll
Sexy.
cover one game, right?
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Nathan, on the Spain versus Netherlands matchup?
That's actually one of my favorites this round. There's two teams that are very equally rated, I would say. Spain has a lot of really, really good players. Netherlands now, they've gone from being a bottom-tier team maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago to now being a perennial top 10 contender, might be pushing for a top 5 this year. Guys like Rude and Justin, really, really good players, super, super nice. They play the game the right way, so they'll have an absolutely fantastic round.
Yeah. I think this will be one. Some of the other matchups that we will be talking about seem more lenient towards one side. Like, I think Poland versus Sweden, Poland should still come out on top of that one. Sweden had arguably easier pod than some of the other teams that ended up with a draw out of their pod. Same applies, I think, to England. They should have it against Austria, but we'll see.
On table 4, we have the United States and Germany, and then there's also a German channel that will be covering one game as well. Target Priority, who will have one game streamed. which is again also 2 3-0 teams that are kind of going at each other.
Teams that scored the most points.
Yes.
Both respectively.
So it should be exciting.
Yeah, so these are current first place versus current second place. So I think in this particular matchup, what we'll see is who really, really wants it this year. Like, this is going to be, is Germany fully back again? They got a podium last year, but they had a couple of years out where they weren't on the podium. So, yes, USA's team is going through a little bit more transitional phase. They don't necessarily have all their best potential players, but they've obviously got new players. Germany's trying to come back. This will be who wants it more.
Yeah, Germany has not been on podium. Obviously, they were on the podium last year, but last time they were on the podium was 2016 when they won it.
Yeah.
So it has been quite a long time for them coming back to the top. But also, there's one thing that we need to English. Anyway, there's one thing that happened to their team, and that's one of their players had to be admitted to ICU. So their captain is stepping in. Thankfully, out of all the armies that he needs to be stepping in, it's Chaos Knights. So I would be arguably 14 War Dogs is one of those armies that's easier for you if you have to learn it on the go. But that's an asterisk over the score. We'll see how he performs, because this is usually very stressful when you just have to jump in as a person who's not ready to be playing.
And you were not designated to play, so you probably didn't do that much prep as a player into the event. So,
and even when we had that situation last year with one of our players catching COVID, he could still write me a summary, what I should do, some information, insights. Whilst in this case, that player is not able right now because he's in the hospital. So there's that difference that he needs to learn it way quicker than I had to last year.
And I guess we should all wish him a speedy recovery, and I hope he gets better. And we're all thinking about you and hoping you're okay.
And USA did just miss out on the podium last year, right? So they were fourth.
Yes.
So they've got a little bit to prove, I would say.
Yeah.
Change their philosophy and kind of their approach to the team this year, it seems.
Last year, they were good in the pot phase when they were playing lesser teams, but as soon as they started playing the bigger teams, the struggles came out. And it has shown that they might not be as good as it seemed, as they actually believe. So I'm looking forward whether they improve their game since last year.
And then on table 5, we have the next 2 3-0 teams, which are France and Australia, or 2-1. 2-1, sorry. I get myself in a little bit too excited. France is 3-0, but Australia is 2-0-1.
So France was the team that won all their games, but had the least amount of points.
Yeah, very narrow wins.
Yep.
Scraping it like we were talking yesterday. They were barely winning against Scotland. They scraped it away against Iceland by like 2 points. So very, very narrow wins, which means they are the bottom seed. I mean, bottom team within the wins. So they will be playing the lower bracket team because there's uneven amount of only winning teams.
Which doesn't really necessarily seem to be like an advantage to France. They're kind of going into a juggernaut, the team that won last year. And then 2 of those games are going to be on French War Games channel.
Yes, exactly.
And then on table 6, we have Luxembourg and Cyprus, Cyprus being a new team.
And they, as a team, have less points than some of the players after those 3 rounds. So
Big oof.
Yeah. Big oof.
It definitely has been a bit of a struggle. Like, it is, like, this is where you meet, like, every single good team and good player from around the world, essentially, right?
Yeah, like, imagine whatever country you're in, all your GT winners, all your tournament winners, all on one team, and then there's 36 countries of that. That's kind of what this event is a lot of the time.
So they'll definitely be very much motivated to prove something after the not too great showing in the pot phase.
And then on table 7, we have the UN A team, which is Slovakia, against Czechia. I'm not going to get it wrong.
I like how you've learned the name now. You're just like, I'm gonna hammer it home.
I'm going to
every
do it
time.
because I don't want somebody in a chip line to tell me they're pronouncing the name wrong.
You won't get us today, internet.
You're not catching me. I'm going to pronounce a lot of things incorrectly this weekend, but it's not going to be that.
That's fine.
Like when I had to call Tomek over to tell me how to pronounce hello in Polish.
You're a brave man for trying.
I know. On table 8, we have Romania and Iceland.
Okay, yeah. Iceland, a little
They
bit of
need
a
to win
spotty
this
start.
one.
Yes, they need to get their campaign going. They came out of what actually is a relatively decent pod.
Yeah.
They struggled, but they can come back now.
They came out with 2 losses and a draw, if I recall
Yeah.
correctly.
They haven't won yet.
Drawing against the other UN team.
Yeah.
So
And
Rough
that's
start.
improved from them as well.
Yeah.
And then the next one we've got is the other UN team, which is Malta against Northern Ireland.
That should be an interesting one. Northern Ireland's a lot more organized than it used to be. Great bunch of guys. Again, UN teams don't always have that cohesion, but they have shown that they're actually doing decent in some of those rounds.
they might have skill level because usually UN teams have singular players that just didn't make it to their national team or coaching staff. So those players might still be a GT winner in a given
Exactly,
country. And then they get onto UN teams. So sometimes UN teams can become a super teams, which I think was the case in one of the first ETCs when UN team came third.
Or as the internet might say, England in 2019. It was a UN team.
Um, just a little.
Lord Nicholas Nowatovski.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
On the 10th table, we have Wales and Latvia.
That should be an interesting one. Battle towards the bottom because Wales came out with 3 losses.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think they got a draw with South Africa and 2 losses.
Yeah, and Latvia also had the draw last round because one of the Polish mercs in that team was very, very happy. So again, this is the same situation like with Iceland. I think some of the teams need to prove now that the pod was just a fault, and now they can get out of it. And when playing against similar tier teams, similar skill level teams, they can punch up and prove that they are better than them.
And then we have Canada against Denmark on table 11, which should be a really
fun
good matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Battle of the nice guys.
Yeah, battle of who's going to be the
yeah.
most polite.
So, yeah, it should be a trophy for this round. But actually, I don't know who is nicer. But yeah, that should be actually quite a fun round. I'd imagine maybe
Denmark has their own branded 40k rum with them,
nice.
so they have
Which is
advantage in
good.
that one.
Nice. Hopefully, having just played USA, I know Canada and USA have different metas, but they have some similar lists. They might
the
be
orc
able to,
one?
yeah, like the orc
we-
list.
like we mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, so they should be able to maybe have got a little bit of an advantage having just played USA. But no, actually, I don't think I can pick a winner for that. I'd maybe say Canada.
It's very close.
Yeah,
Should be
but at the
close.
same time, Canada, I think they had 2 draws within their group.
Yeah.
Whilst Denmark was the highest scoring until they met USA.
Yes.
So having that in mind, seeing who they played, I might be giving a slight edge to Denmark because they won in those drawish missions.
Yeah.
I'm just biased because Jeremy's coaching Team Canada. And so I kind of just want Team Canada to do really well. But we'll see how that pans
We'll
out.
have a bias.
Yeah. I just like mine. On table 12, we have Greece and South Africa. South Africa kind of coming out pretty hard for a new team, right?
Yeah, they're doing really, really, really well. They're well coached. They're organized. They were able to get some results out of last. So it's 2 draws and a loss.
Yeah.
So they've only lost a round. So they could be one of the ones that sneaks into tier 3, maybe pushes for a tier 2.
On table 13, we have Scotland and Ireland.
That's a fun one. Happens pretty regularly. Our 8 nations. I would give the advantage to Scotland. I think they maybe came through a slightly tougher group, not a whole lot different.
A little bit tighter, probably, in skill
yeah.
level.
And actually, Scotland came away with 2 wins. Ireland came away with only a win and a draw. So that's where the bottom of the 2 wins and the top of the win and the draw coming together. I'd give that one to Scotland. But Scotland weren't smashing people, and this is a very drawy mission, so we can see that could go one way.
And then on table 14, we have Norway and Belgium. Norway, kind of a team that seems like they worked really hard, improved
Yes.
a lot from previous years, kind of surprised some people a little bit with their level of
Yeah.
preparation and skill as well.
Yes.
both an underdog, and in terms of biases, I'm rooting for those guys, definitely.
They are actually the nicest team at this event. Sorry, Canada. Sorry, Denmark. Norwegians actually the nicest people to.
It's easier for them to prove it
And
because
with
they're
the biggest
staying in the
flag.
same hotel
And then we must
as
remember-
we are.
the
So
biggest flag, yes, as well.
flag's a big plus.
But-
Yeah.
Belgium, I think this is interesting because previous year they falter when it came to Swiss. They proven that their preparation was paramount, and they have a buff against seed one teams, which
Yeah.
they have fortified this previous round when they drew Australia.
But also proving your point by drawing New Zealand and also just barely 1 point more and they actually lose.
Yeah, so that's where I want to see, because I think this will prove which team is the better at their preparation, where both teams were praising their processes that brought them here.
On table 15, we have Italy and Switzerland.
That's a nice round. Italy, I was surprised that they didn't put up maybe more of a fight versus Sweden, but still came in that pod with 2 wins. Yeah, 4 points. I would probably give that to Italy, but Switzerland are a good team. They're organized. They've
And
had
they were very close against Germany. Germans were sweating that one.
were they? Okay.
Like when I approached them, they were like, "We are not sure. It's looking drawish." Then they got a small win, but
That's a pretty German thing to do. Then.
Undersell or
Yes,
under promise, over deliver. Next on table 16, we have Croatia and Bulgaria.
so the Balkan fight.
Yes. Yeah. It's nice.
I think Bulgaria should come up on top on that one, even
Yeah.
though Croatia has some mercs, Polish mercs at that.
Yeah, like Bulgaria looked good in the England pod and Spain pod, even though they didn't come away with wins against those two teams. They still pushed them pretty difficult. They have good lists. They have some big tournament experience coming over to like our big team events and things. So yeah,
And then table 17 is Portugal and Israel.
that's an interesting one.
I cannot tell who performed better.
No, Israel obviously being a new team, they did struggle in some of their pod games, but as did Portugal versus these are 2-0-3, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but again, from here, only way is up. Like somebody hopefully will win that.
It's only Portugal's second year, like with
Exactly,
a full team of people from Portugal, and essentially,
Yeah, you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, only one team has been new, come here and done extremely well. The rest of them all pretty much start from there.
And then we on table 18 we have New Zealand and Finland, so another new team going into a more established team, really.
That one is also interesting.
That's a really cool round. Yeah,
I'll
the
be
Finnish guys are
looking.
fantastic.
I'll be looking keeping close eye on it, because I think that one might also be a very tight round,
Yeah.
where both teams seem quite level to each other. Like they seem on a similar skill level.
Yes.
And I just want to see how that one will unfold as well.
Finland was held to a draw by South Africa. Wales, New Zealand drew Belgium, but they had a rough round into Australia, which they lost.
But they won
Unfortunately,
against
but-
Portugal.
Yeah, so
Pretty
I will,
evenly matched.
I will say one of the things I've been really impressed by New Zealand so far, and kind of one of the things we talked about, is they've paired really well. Like at
Yes.
this event, they've had some things kind of not go their way in some of the pairings, especially in that matchup against Belgium, correct? So like they weren't able to pull out kind of 100% what they wanted to.
But I'm not really surprised about that, because David Gaylord is in that team. And when it comes to his preparation for pairing, etc., he won last team event in Birmingham.
Yes, for
He
Team
wa-
Ignite.
He was learning a lot from Yokul. He was also asking me a lot of questions when we were discussing pairings. We've done a few videos with each other where we were discussing how to do pairings. So I can see that he had the means to do extremely well at pairings, because he had the backbone of the Fury that is very important to do it well.
Yes, and he's also worked with Vic from Team England, which obviously works with Josh, who does all the pairings for Team England. So yeah, he's been smart. He's asked people around. He's really good at. He's super analytical. He's very good at pairings. He's been smart, thinking maybe we don't put all the time and effort into Australia. Let's just smash these other 2 rounds. And in pairings, they have smashed them. Belgium were just lucky enough to pull away with the draw.
Yep, that was
by a point.
Yeah. 1 point. And especially for a new team, that's like quite a
Super
performance,
impressive.
really.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the things that people are really interested in is that we can talk about the mission while we're going to pause for 2 seconds while England and Austria yell at each other about pairings.
I
Yeah,
apologize.
So they're
on
just
behalf
doing
of everyone.
pairings like basically next to us. And they're having a terrible time just laughing with each other over there, obviously. So
Yeah,
the
you can
mission
tell it's very
today for
tense.
round 4
Yeah.
is Scorched Earth, Chilling Rain, and Search and Destroy. So that's table quarters for deployment for people who aren't looking at their GT pack. Do you two want to talk about this mission for a second?
I think we are doomed by them choosing Chilling Rain because now it's raining in Belgium and it should be raining also tomorrow, and it's spiky Chilling Rain. I think it's just bad. Anyway, I must shut myself up.
He knew that when I laughed at it, that it was bad.
So yeah, the mission today, it's quite a drawy mission. This is the one where I'm just going to explain it because I can never remember the names of these things. But effectively, you can only score up to 10 points a round for the number of objectives you hold. So this kind of promotes you only having to sit on 2 objectives, especially because it's quarters. You get 1 in your deployment zone and 1 to your immediate top left. So it ends up some armies, if they want to play for a draw, can just sit on those 2. The extra bit to this is you can burn objectives. However, if people are sitting on those 2, it's quite difficult to burn somebody's. By burning objective, I mean you gain an extra 5 points at the end of the game, but that objective can no longer be scored. So what you can do is you end up towards the end of the game burning even your own objective for the extra bonus 5, especially if you think you might lose it. But this mission for primary, it's quite easy for people to come away with about 40 points, 45 points for those things.
So what factions are you looking at here to have an advantage in pairings, do you think?
So say, for example, GSC into its potential bad matchups can just hunker down on 2 objectives. It's quite difficult to shift them off. Again, Custodes, some of those potential bad matchups can turn to draws because you go, cool, take 40 Custodes off objectives. I can sit here for 40. I get 10 points for 10 points for painted. I'm on 50. So I'm automatically not getting 20 nils. Then the differential comes down to what cards you get. So if you've got assassins and small utility units, maybe you send 1 unit out to go get some cards. Say you get 20 to 30 points. I'm already on 60 to 70. The best you can do is 16-4, 15-5. So it ends up being one of those. If you want to push for a draw in this mission, you can. So when we were doing, say, matrices last night, if you want to say, oh, I get 15 points out of that, it goes, well, if they're going to get 70, you have to get 100. Are you going to get 100? No, because you're probably only going to get 40, 45 on primary. Unless you can really push their side objective, it's very difficult to actually match this mission.
So we probably should anticipate seeing quite a few draws, very tight scoring, and maybe small wins from
I would have
teams.
thought so more.
Unless somebody really blows open the pairings.
End of the round should be tense once again.
Yes. Yeah.
And we'll have
Especially now
Typhus
that-
doing sprints probably towards the end of the round again.
Oh, yeah. Begin this exercise.
It's how he's working off all the chips and things that we're eating while we're here. And then we do have a question from chat as well. So Lossrum is asking how the Spirit Decor is. Are we seeing any salty, sour teams, or are we seeing just mostly jovial teams?
It's mostly jovial. Like most people, again, it is a game of toy soldiers. We don't take it too crazy serious. But later rounds, definitely. I think maybe unexpected draws where they thought they were going to get wins. Some teams would be disappointed with those results, but it doesn't take you out of the running here. It's not like a big super major where you have to get max wins.
I thought you had something to
No,
say
no,
for a
no,
second.
no,
Sorry,
no.
Typhus.
I have nothing on my mind.
I just want to tell everybody that between rounds and stuff like that, people are trading jerseys, people are
Yes.
giving each other hugs, some people are taking selfies and stuff like that. For the most part, outside of probably some minor stuff that we just don't see or hear about, everybody's having a good time. I think I've seen more people in other countries' jerseys than in their own jerseys at some points during the rounds.
I always used to dislike playing Spain because they always have the coolest jerseys, but they're also thin and slender. And I'm just like,
You
I
can never
can't fit in any of
you
them.
can never trade with
It's
some
awful,
people,
yeah.
right?
I really want one of those.
One year they had no one expects Spanish Inquisition shirts with their faces on the Inquisitors, and I have that one and I cherish that one. I will never wear it. It's a trophy because they had only one per player.
You should get it framed, hang it up.
And then we do have another question from chat, this time from Sam, who's getting a trophy sent via me via like Slow Pony Express, funnily enough. I'm giving it to Team Australia. But can two teams play each other again in the Swiss version of the format? So can England and Spain play each other?
No, they can't there. So you want to. It's much better for the event that obviously you don't play the same team twice. But then in previous years, it has happened where if you played a lot of top teams earlier in the event, you can get to a point where the final round to decide the event, first place could be playing even 5th or 6th place, which doesn't always feel fantastic. But if you've already played, people who came 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, it just happens.
And this is what we discussed in the last episode we recorded as well, that the change in how the pairings are done throughout the whole tournament. So with the introduction of the pot face, so that really makes it more interesting up until the
That
very
was
end.
the idea behind it. I don't think with the introduction of Podface we'll have team who's won all their previous rounds playing against a team that's at 7th, 8th spot, which was a thing before. I remember specifically in 2014, we started the event with France, then went through England, Finland, Germany, all the top dogs to play Wales round 6, and it felt just not like a final.
Felt wrong for both teams.
Yes.
Yeah, that point.
Yes. You want it to be a Germany versus Poland.
Yes.
To win the event in the last round, but it predominantly ends up when two teams are constantly winning, they actually tend to meet round 4, 3, 5, that kind of time.
I think I'll circle back to like the culture of this event just like a little bit. I think one of the things that's interesting about this event is like it really exemplifies kind of what the competitive community is about at this level. You have GT level play, like GT, super major, major winning level players from like every country here. Like every country's best are here. And so sometimes there's like a false impression. That's Austria.
Austria. I was going to say, the
Kind of
Spartans from 300.
Yeah, man, I did half expect to see like just
To be
well-oiled people running across.
Yeah, you're not going to see a single six-pack
after
here.
all that shouting, we saw Nasser Hussein just run away. So it makes sense.
They might have frightened him off, which is pretty impressive. And it seems usually in the thick of it. But it looks like we must have finished pairings for Austria and England. England is huddled. Austria is over at all their tables, kind of getting set up. We're going to see who they picked for the stream table pretty soon. So I think we'll get pairings live pretty quickly after this. Most of the teams are starting to break apart from their little huddles, so pairings should all be going live. I guess, do you think England?
Sweden just shouted England.
I think they're going with the hashtag
their chant,
anyone but England.
That's their chant when they.
So when we
here for
talk
it.
about
I
a
like
spirit decor, anyone but England is a very strong international feeling right now. Although I think it's only slightly above anyone but the United States and kind of like the level of the hashtag.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when people say anyone but England,
They
that doesn't
mean
mean they
anyone
want
but
a
the
USA
USA
to,
as well.
right?
Yes.
No.
So if you can't tell, competitive players absolutely terrible to one another. But this event is like very much an illustration about how the competitive community, especially at the high end, is like very collaborative. Like these people know each other and they like each other and they become friends. People tend to have the vision of competitive players is kind of sitting in the basement, like planning how to make people sad and at the tabletop and mean and stuff like that. I think both of you can talk about your WTC experiences like a little bit and kind of like how this event kind of exemplifies like that sportsmanship and stuff like that.
Yeah, so for me, being the highlight of the year, and like as you saw from looking around potentially yesterday, there's 500 people here, including staff. You might know half the room. You might not be on first name basis with everybody, but you recognize people year in, year out. You make tons and tons of friends here. And this is, compared to, say, online gaming, which, don't get me wrong, is still fun, this is still a person-to-person interaction. You make so many friends. You're here for 5 days. You go for drinks with everybody in the evening. Not only is it the gaming highlight of the year for 40K players, it's the social highlight of the year as well. All the prep you do, all the lead up to it, then also is matched by going out in the evenings and having fun and seeing friends you only see once, maybe twice a year. I think that's possibly why people get so nostalgic about it. And it's why people do try and come back every year if they can.
I will say one of the exciting things has been being asked to be introduced to people, essentially, and people walking over and asking to say hello. Or in the case of some people asking me if I want to look at their algorithms and stuff like that,
Yeah.
which really is just flirting with me at this point as a stats person. Yeah. Really, they're just asking me to come over. That's basically asking me on a date at this point.
Yeah. And he said yes to all of them.
And then Typhus, how about you?
For me, it's the same thing that Nathan said. There's also one more thing which is very specific to this event. When you have both players at the table knowing how the game should go because you've play tested it, it also makes those games easier, less tense than what you might sometimes see, because you both come to a board with expectation of one player going for a win, the other one scraping for points, but you're not playing for that 1 point win that you usually play in win, draw, lose. So both players approach the table, and I think the best thing we saw was yesterday Jack Harpster playing against Martin from Martin Bremer Nielsen. I probably butchered that one. But they were talking to each other what the other player can do because they knew what was the game plan after round one. They both had full idea and they were collaborating even when figuring out the projections of the score. They would go through cards together, which can be still drawn, and they had conversations which of those would give them advantage. And that game took an hour because both of them knew what they were doing. They shook hands and just went away. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, while you may hear stories occasionally where there's maybe poor sportsmanship, but I actually think the best way to play the game is exemplified here more than I've had at any singles event.
And also to follow up on that, when we are talking about bad sportsmanship, it's also about when we hear about those stories, it's maybe 2 games or 3 games throughout this event.
Yes.
And we have 300 players playing?
Yeah, it's like 150 games per round.
Then you have 7 rounds. So you hear about 3 bad games out of
1,000 almost, yeah.
And that's
you're the stats guy.
That's
not a very large number.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's what you usually see at competitive events, right? At majors, super majors, and GT level events. The number of people having a bad experience is or bad sportsmanship experience is relatively low relative to the number of people who come out of there with new connections and new friends. Also, I'm taking over because we got some of our pairings in the round. And one of the ones that we got in is a good one with Spain into Netherlands. So we get to look at some spicy matchups first, and then hopefully we'll get some stuff from our England and Austria matchup next soon. Yeah. But for Spain, what we've got is we have Taroxer, who's on Thousand Suns, going into Chris Clayton, who's on Adeptus Custodes.
Okay.
That one seems Custodes' favored to some extent.
Yes, but for player skill, Taroxer, I think, is one of the best players here. He's probably played that match 100 times. He's also got the Demon Prince in his list, so you do have to be very careful with your characters, just not get precisioned out, because I think that's a tactic he's potentially doing with his list. But yeah, that'll be very interesting.
I don't think people quite understand the level of shouting and chanting that's going on in the background. I don't think you can quite hear it. It is quite something. There's the USA.
It's way stronger than yesterday.
Yeah, big
you
time.
can feel the 10
This is when the event reel starts.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah,
Oh,
teams
into the
were
microphone. We're
practicing
sorry,
the
Tony.
jumps.
Yes. Although I would say I'm very disappointed New Zealand hasn't done the hat.
It's true.
that's
I was
It
expecting
wouldn't be very intimidating, let's be honest.
They are mostly
But-
tall and willowy, yes.
Yes, yeah. They should get some more sun.
Our second pairing is Alejandro with Blood Angels into the captain of Team Netherlands, that's Rude, playing Eldari, which feels a little bit like somebody is getting dumped into Eldari.
Yes, yeah.
Although the Def Company tag can be a way to take down the Wraith Knight
And-
or Wraith Guard squad, but I don't think it's sufficient.
Yeah,
for this
with the
matchup.
-1 damage, you're not doing a lot to the Wraith Knight. You still, I guess, your Strength 8, -2, 1 damage, lots of rerolls, but you're not going to probably down it 1 after you've been overwatched in the face. It's, yeah, that's tricky. But it might scrape 3, 4, 5 points out of that if the game
especially
goes
on
well.
this mission.
He's got some indirect in there as well. He's got the multiple whirlwinds, Thunderfire Cannon.
Then we have Gordy playing the WTC Studios.
Hornby.
Sorry, I'm didn't. And then Cohen Vanderlee, much easier. Into Death Watch, playing Death Watch.
So it should be Custody's favorite.
Yeah.
Right up, especially on this deployment. I think this deployment, if you have a decent board for Custodes, means opponent has 1 turn to react before you get into them.
But then again, in this mission, that Death Watch player only has to sit on that side of his board. for
Yeah,
the
problem
10
is,
points.
if he's dead, he cannot score.
Oh, true.
To an extent, but then again, it depends how much. If the Custo player goes for that side, they have the ability to redeploy so much that he can then harass that side as well. So that actually would open up the game quite a lot. So it depends how they actually want to play that. But yeah, that should be in Custo.
And then on the 4th, we have Manuel on Eldari into Justin Jansen playing Gene
Justin
Steerful.
Janssen.
Justin Jansen. Sorry, I'm going to go very full American today. Justin Jansen. Justin, you can come find me later if you want and just get upset with me. But
But
that's
he won't know that he's upset with you.
He won't know because I said his name wrong.
You wouldn't
So that
feel
is,
being called out if you say Justin.
I'm
gonna
saved.
try.
I've been saved by my American pronunciation of things. So yeah, Eldar and Gene Stealer call.
So that Eldar list is the triple Knight Spinner, Young Khan with 1 Wraith Knight. And maybe no 5 prisons now. Interesting list. He's got in there. Justin's a phenomenal player.
I'm starting to feel a little slighted too because they keep interrupting us now.
Yeah. I think that might be in Justin's favor. Justin's a very, very good player. He knows that GSC get army backwards. But the Spanish Eldar player, very, very good. So that should be an interesting one, and especially because we will be looking at the stats throughout this event for things like Eldar and GSC. Because people are very interested in how do those 70% win rate armies get affected in teams.
Especially now when we have players of like more even skill playing
Yes,
these matchups.
Like we were saying yesterday, it'd be interesting to see how the Eldar do in the top of the Swiss meta, Swiss pairings meta. How do the GSC do with more armies that are maybe better at teching into them?
Next we have Roger into Dick, which is guard into Necrons, which feels interesting on this one.
This mission, I think, is weird, but it's
It does
a
feel like
little
it's-
bit worse for guard.
Yes.
Quarters deployment means that Necrons get to flicker if they want to and just start tagging you.
Yes, yeah. That it's a lot harder for the guard to screen out certain spaces.
And then the next matchup is Ivan Andreas into Christian Domberg, sorry. That's Orcs into Imperial Knights. Orcs again. Does feel Orc favored though, right?
So this is a different. This isn't the truck version. So he's got 5 or 6 trucks. He's got the 663 Boar Boys,
Okay.
or whatever they're called. Beast Snagger, not Beast Snaggers.
Yeah.
Whatever the Boar guys are called. And then he's got like 2 units of knobs and transports. So this one actually has the more damage.
Especially
whether
the vehicles, right?
Yes, yeah. So whether this will be, again, if that Orc player wants to sit for a draw, those beast units are really tough to shift, even I guess so for guard, because if it's kind of melter heavy, they're so unreliable into like bigger units. It depends how the knights want to play, because if he overstretches and gets something killed, he starts to lose the board control. But knights always have the possibility of just being able to ram them down that side and just take that off.
And then on the next one, we have Gonzalo on Chaos Demons into Dino on Tau. So this is one of the people who took Tau, actually.
Yeah, and this matchup, nearly the same matchup happened yesterday between Poland and Finland, because Gonzalo has also a big boy army with the squad of Blood Crushers, and our Tau player played yesterday against 4 chickens and Belakur list, and he lost that one 16-4. I think this matchup can be demon favored because of the ranges and that you can play it outside of the range of Tau. But granted, yesterday's mission was quite good for the big boy spam, because kill more just favors lists that have only 6 units.
Yes, for sure.
And then the last pairing that we're going to talk about from this one, and then I got sent a secret message about pairings for Poland into Sweden. And the last one for this is Marco on Gene Stealer Cult into Florian on Thousand Suns.
Okay. Again, I'd favor Gene Stealer Cult to a small margin, but for Thousand Suns, this one's a little bit easier to hold on for some more points.
And then we can pop over to Poland into Sweden. I'm going to remind myself now that Sweden is on top, but I'm going to try to get this wrong as much as possible. And we're not going to have names this time. We're just going to have factions. So Sweden's on top with Necrons into Tau.
This is heavy Tau favored.
Yeah. Necrons will pick a heavier table, but
that 6-man crisis squad on average kills 15 Lich Guard.
Ooh, that's spicy.
So
yeah.
Do they
might have been dead 10.
Do they also then all die from...
No, only 2 on average.
Oh.
You commit sudo, not sudo.
Although the amount of times I've heard lost my whole unit, or I lost 4 crisis guys, it's like, okay, the ones are prevalent.
Great power comes with a great price.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
And then we have Orcs into Gene Stealer Cult, so that's Sweden. I'm going to start with Sweden every time.
So this is a game Myson already played. He played against Orcs that weren't full rush on list like the previous one. And I think Myson has a slight advantage over different GSC lists because he has infiltrating 20-man squad. And because of that, he can just block the opponent from pushing him.
Yes, yeah.
And if he goes first, opponent cannot leave his deployment zone. And he won the game yesterday, I think, 16-4. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets it again.
Again, this is maybe a pairings where you would possibly favor Orcs, especially the MSU version, a little bit, because you have to debunk them, then you have to shoot the unit.
But they also have knobs in Sweden.
So it's the more damage version.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I would maybe favor the GSC then. That infiltrating unit is a really, really nice tech piece. You infiltrate it. If you don't go first, it's annoying, but it still blocks them a little bit. But if you go first,
he also has a redeploy, so he can.
Yes. Yeah. But you don't know about the turn.
Yeah, but
I have tables, actually. Do we want to talk table for that Orc into Gene Stealer Cult? It looks like it's on table 7. Or it's on 7?
Which round? No, sorry, I meant we don't know what turn it is.
Oh,
Turn,
sorry.
yeah.
I was like, table? That I do know.
Yeah.
All right. We have Gene Stealer Cult into Custodes, which is steadily turning into a tale as old as time at this event.
it's Polish Custodes, but that Custodes player already 20-odd 1 GSC in the previous rounds. So we'll see how it unfolds. I think in general, if it's Custodes table, it can be quite drawish.
Yours is more Warden heavy.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's usually slightly in the Custo favor, but that can snowball a little bit, yeah. The Guard version struggles a little bit more.
Yeah, bombs are way more effective into that.
Yes.
And then we have Chaos Knights into Adeptus Astartes. I don't know what Adeptus Astartes variety we're
So
looking
we have Land Raider Redeemer.
at.
Yeah. With 6 aggressors inside.
Ooh.
10 Deathwing Knights. 10 Desolators.
This is
and
the
some
Dark
Chop.
Angels variety. Yeah.
He's just balling because he wanted to fill his metal Land Raider from 2008.
A Metal Land Raider.
Well, relic.
There's definitely some strong... that feels almost, though, Dark Angels favored just because it will be fun.
I think definitely Knights in this matchup help out quite a lot.
Yeah.
And then the
Again,
next
its melters can pop off
Yes.
a little bit. That feel no pain I'd imagine it's 6 brigands. If you go hell for leather, you might actually be able to put that squad down, and then actually the Chaos Knights could start running rampant because the
Yes.
board control's gone a little bit. So that's probably actually the one I'm looking out for the most. So I'd be interested to see how that actually goes.
I think this one can be Chaos Knight's favorite, actually.
Yes, that actually, if he has that one turn where he commits and really, even with the feel of pain, goes for that. How is their feel of pain? Was it the same as the custode when you declare it, or is it as soon as
They
it's
do not.
targeted?
They are -1 damage, 4 wounds each.
I think you're talking about the Watcher. That's only mortal wounds, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you could pop off against that unit, the -1 damage. Again, the Gatlings are still only 1 damage. The Melter does 4 guys. Yeah, so I might actually favor CK in that matchup if he plays it correctly. Yeah.
I just want the Land Raider to win.
Yeah. That
It feels like it's been a long time.
Make Land Raider's great again.
Next is Custodes into Astra Militarum.
I think that's a matchup that was heavily
It's
tested by the
Scar's
Polish team.
guard into their custom.
I'd give Skark a decent win.
Next, we have Eldar into Necrons, which also in the lore is a tale as old as time.
Yeah, Gito was just getting thrown under the bus the whole tournament. He was getting GSC, Eldar, just have fun. Another Eldar, have fun. That's his role.
And then it's Space Marines into Eldar, which feels also like somebody's kind of getting thrown under the bus once more.
Yeah, I think Deathwatch doesn't have arguments into this,
And maybe squeak like a few points off of them, but
as we mentioned at the start.
yeah, because it's hard to get that to stop your opponent, right, from getting it, even with towering.
The Eldar players really can play.
I guess it also depends on what table 4 is for this matchup with terrain.
I would assume
It's one of the
Duda was
mid-table, and 4, if I'm not mistaken, is the weird one, where it's the big
The
L
double.
plonked onto the little L.
So you can hide a little bit easier.
Yeah,
I would
for
assume
Marine
that's
type
the
ones.
table that Marines just chose defending.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then next we have Imperial Knights into Thousand Suns.
Again, usually a little bit more in IK favor. But then again, that skill level, Thousand Suns, if things start popping off, you can actually get. One of the nice things, I know we talked about Thousand Suns a lot being so skill orientated, is you can actually pull yourself out of certain games if things start going your way.
And then we are starting to see some more population and pairings as well. So we'll go through a couple more, and then I'll see if England is up in just a second after we go through this United States and
Nice.
Germany one, since I think that's another good one.
It's pretty
Yeah,
important.
Yeah.
What we can, I would say we also can sum up how we see a given pairing before on the team level go. So I would say, looking at the pairings of the Poland, I think they
5-3.
they're
roughly
looking
again.
like 5-1-2. They
Yeah.
look quite decent. They look like 2 matchups, but other
Yeah.
than that, they're quite comfortable. Famous last words.
Famous last words for team. Yeah.
Yeah, it's where the bad matchups get a little bit more draws in this mission? Can they start sneaking some more points? But yeah, I think that's gone in Poland's favor.
For the United States, we're going to start at the top and kind of just go down. We have Tyranids into Custodes.
With Sean Nathan getting already 60 points this event. And we had the idea that this list was created to counter Custodes to some extent.
Potentially, because you've got the monsters with the -1 damage in the 2 Tyrannofexes. But then again, a lot of the NID's damage is a little bit too damage orientated. Custodes have the -1 damage. You can't really charge Custodes. He hasn't really got much in kill-aware combat because they can fight first and they're super tough. So that's an interesting one. But actually, yeah, that NID list has some tech. I was rolling the math on that Carnifex unit. It's actually quite good into these sort of things. But Custodes in cover still going to 3-up save. It's difficult. to
That's
take them
one
down.
to watch.
Yes.
Because this will unveil how they plan to use those nits in their pairings.
Yes. Yeah.
And then we have Death Watch into Thousand Suns. And this is always going to be United States first, followed by
Okay.
I think Thousand Suns favored.
Yeah.
And it's also Arne, very, very good player against Jaime. So I think that's also a game to watch on the skill level alone.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure, that's
Jaime and Arne are both very good.
Insanely good players.
Then we have Eric Forsman of the Midwest with Gene Steeler Colt into Dominic on Chaos Knights.
So Dominic is their captain who had to step in
in.
for their player. This is a thing that we discussed earlier, whether
Yeah.
GSC has it favored. I'm really curious to see how it will go.
So the 3 games I played, I felt like if the GSE get the drop and do enough damage, it's really tough. Because things like actually the Brigands are very good at picking up. The shot output in that list is fantastic. Even Carnivores get a lot of swing attacks to mop up units. CK are not fantastic at scoring cards sometimes. You do have to use Knights, so you have to be very careful. But this list, this list has no Carnivores. It's all Melter shooting.
Yeah, it's 4 Stalkers,
4 Huntsmen,
and
6
and
Brigands.
6
Yeah.
Brigands.
The other thing is interesting, I think, since Tyler, who's part of like the Association of Team USA, played into Arna, I think, on this list during the singles event. Maybe there's a little bit
And
more
he lost.
understanding. He
And
did
he-
lose, but maybe there's more of an understanding of how that matchup plays out now as well.
I think that's quite big into who gets first turn.
Yeah.
If the Chaos Knights have the 2 turns to spread out, stop GSC dropping all the objectives, you can actually go, well, they didn't score any primary turn 2. They scored very little primary on turn 3. You can start chipping away the points. I tend to believe it's in GSC favor if played correctly. Aberrants are a pain, real pain to kill. So, but then I've heard a lot of people say, oh, CK is really good into Necrons, really good into GSC.
And it has been proven so far with the scores. So we
Yes.
might be just
Yeah.
wrong
We are occasionally wrong,
quite often on that.
actually. Yes.
Uh,
Next, we have Orcs into Gene Steeler Colt. Or this is the truck version of the Orcs list, just all trucks all the time.
this one I'm also interested in because
Yeah.
it seems like their list, the orc list, was created to counter Jinx.
Yeah, as one of their counters. Yeah. So I think
And
they
I
kind of
want to
pushed that match.
see how it performs when it push comes to shove.
Yeah, I think if you play your stand, if he's played your German guys played the game, there is a little bit more. If you set up more, and the orcs run into all the shooting, you can actually get a better result out of that.
Yeah, you cannot play the full deep strike game plan.
No. So, but if he doesn't know that, and he maybe goes, "I'll just play my regular game," it's difficult, especially if he goes first. The move and advance again. Is quite possible that you can actually block the GSC from getting anywhere super significant.
Also, it feels like GSC might be able to uncouple them from transports, but then you have
Then
what do you
gotta
follow
go
up with
top.
after that, right? Because you've broken the transport, then orcs spill out. Do you
Yeah.
then have all of the resources in position to then pick up all of the orcs or not? And it can be just a lot of bodies spilling out of transports, right?
Yeah, and you only have 2 units of grenades coming in. How you spread those out is interesting. How many does it really take to kill a truck? If it's got the invuln, do I need to put all 4 demo charges in to kill 1 truck?
Yeah.
Then I've got to pull a full 20-ish man into. Can I see them? If the orc player is clever and he puts them behind terrain, then it's like, okay, well, I've debunked them now, and then they go into charge me. So they haven't. You've traded a whole 20-man squad for a 10-man.
And with trucks, you can be even smarter if you put them side by side. You cannot disembark within 3, so you can force yourself that the middle truck will have to disembark within 6, so you can even work around the line of sight even more
Yeah, and you have the Korean strat as well,
Yes.
which allows you to move as well.
before disembark.
What is that? Kareen, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With a chaos.
With a kid, sorry. It's orcs.
Yeah.
They're basically soccer hooligans, right? They don't know how to spell.
Pretty much, yeah. They look the same as well.
Next, we have Custodes into Deathwatch, which I guess we just talked about as favored for Custodes, right?
Yeah, it's around the 13-14 mark.
And then we have what continues to be one of the more interesting kind of aspects of the United States list, which is Grey Knights into Necrons.
Super Droid mission.
Super drawy lists.
Super.
I don't think Grey Knights, when running the maps, have the damage to shift and Lich Guard. I just ran it in my brain when I saw it before, and I think the 10-man squad, when charging, if all of them strike with the buffs, kills maybe 5 Lidgard.
Yeah. So it's like you kind of just bounce off each other a little bit. But if that's enough to take a primary off, maybe he does it. But if the Necrons have a turn to just kind of screen out those 2 objectives, it's very difficult. He screens out the lone ops, not really getting to them.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then we have Chaos Space Marines into Chaos Demons, which feels Chaos Space Marines heavy depending on the Demons list build.
It's a big one. Big boys.
So
Yeah.
Obliterators, Big Boys, Dead Big Boys.
Like, you will have to drop in 18. It's a lot of 4-pin buttons. Obliterators have random shots. I know they get all the rerolls, but...
43 shots, you do not get the Melta range, so you're only damage 4. It can get quite swingy, and then they get back to you. And I think if there's any profile that some of the demons are actually quite good into, is Obliterator profile.
Yes, yeah. The only issue you do have is the deep strike behind terrain, use the indirect. Then if the demons want to move in, they get shot straight to the face. They move out of the terrain. Because the terrain actually now, the way your fly works, is actually quite difficult for monsters to charge. And I think it was one thing that came up in the Spanish game yesterday. It's whether opponents have been smart enough that how you move demon monsters is an absolute nightmare. So Vic did a chart for Team England about how if Magnus wants to do a pivot, it takes 3.5 inches off his movement. Manny had it yesterday where the guy just put his Bloodthirster in the corner of a ruin and decided he wanted to move around the ruin. And Manny said, well, you've got to spend 3 inches to pivot, move, and then if you pivot again, your wings go off the table, so you can't move. So if you know how that works, demon monsters are very difficult to move.
And then the last one's not very interesting. It's an Eldar mirror.
Cool. They deserve it.
They deserve one another. Hopefully they just 10-10 each other and kind of end it on
makes
that
it
note.
so spicy.
That
Because-
could be a coin flip for the round.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
And they've done it a year ago as well. They went for a Tau coin flip in the final, which
Yes, they did. Yes.
if Germany won, they would have been second, and us would have
Yes.
been third.
And speaking of Tau, Typhus, can you talk to us a little bit about the Polish Tau and kind of the No. Okay, fine.
So-
That's fair. Reasonable. You don't want to.
the
Secret's
pairings
secret.
look
It's a
But-
secret.
in favor of USA. I would.
I think the
Yes.
last pairing just says
Well, yeah, the last one is
I can.
coin.
Overall, I think USA got the upper hand on the pairings, with Orcs getting GSC, with their Custodies getting Death Watch. I think they've got those pairings they want, but the fact that they have Eldari flip in there doesn't make me very confident which team is favorite.
Yeah.
I think USA should have it looking at the pairings, but if the Eldari flip goes 20-0 the other way,
Yeah, that
Yeah,
10
if it's a 20-0 in the other team's favor, that's definitely a swing, right?
Especially in this mission, right? It's when you one way can make a
Yeah.
big difference.
Could make or break a round.
Because usually, if that's the
if
last
it's so,
pairing,
yeah, and also if you
Same as
know
well.
it early, you can tell your players, okay, we've got 20. Now you just play differently because you now burned those markers earlier. Deny scoring from opponent by trying to burn their marker or stuff like that.
yes, sure.
So, have we got any other games pairings come in?
We do have some.
England's up.
They're not up yet. Which, do you want to go run and just poke somebody to
Yeah,
see
we've
if
got
they'll
6
give you
coaches,
some?
and not one of them's doing their job.
Okay. So I'm going to send Nathan because Nathan can get the pairings for us. And then we can talk about England's
He's
pairings
an
into
inside
Austria.
man that we've
Yeah.
got on
He's our
Team England.
Yeah. Let's see what else we've got. We talked about those.
Have we got like Norway versus Belgium, for example?
Let me take a look. I think we actually do.
Or France, Australia.
Yeah, or that one.
We don't have France, Australia yet. I
It's
do.
lacking. They also have 20 coaches combined between them too.
We
So
do-
surely none of them have time.
We do have Norway
No,
and
no.
Belgium.
Yeah, but did we hear like a Vive la
We can-
France?
We can talk
Do we
about
know
Norway
they're
and
playing?
Belgium if we want, real quick.
Yeah,
Nathan
yeah,
kind of
let's
gives
do
us some pairings. Our Nathan is going to be right back, and now we'll have the pairings for that matchup. We can talk about Norway afterwards.
Yep.
Sorry,
Can do
Norway,
that
you are the
as well.
nicest country, but we do need to talk about the people who are right in front of us first.
The one on the stream, because it seems nothing is playing.
On the stream.
This team is on stream, yes.
So what are the pairings then?
So I'll have to try and make this because unfortunately I have the pairing sheet, so I don't want to give away the way it actually paired.
Go random.
Give me 2 seconds to decipher these.
Decipher some handwriting as well.
So we have, in no particular order, Thousand Suns from Austria playing. That can't be right.
And then they've made a huge mistake.
These sheets are. Well, it says accepted demon. We don't have a demon now. Oh, it's our Thousand Suns. We've accepted their demons.
Okay.
So Thousand Suns versus demons. So this actually the table's the other way around. Okay, right.
I think Immortal Wounds are.
Trust me, if you're looking at the score, if you can see one of these blank scoring sheets, this is not easy to read.
When I was reading the Sweden versus Poland, when I was reading it by faction things,
Yes,
I couldn't read the text because somebody took a picture of it, sent it through Facebook Messenger, which compressed it, and then it got compressed again when I was looking at it. So it was definitely a situation of reading pixels and hoping for enhancements.
Yeah, so if Thousand Suns versus demons, England Thousand Suns, Austria demons. We have Austria's Custodes versus England's GSC.
That could be interesting.
It's not Warden heavy, so I actually give that to GSC.
Yeah, and Mike won last game 13-7.
Yeah, and was because of the mission we had last night, it wasn't bigger because he killed 25 Custodes on his turn 2.
Oh, wow.
And then could get killed more.
Because the guy was like kill, hold for 8 points a turn, which you don't always get, and took deploy beacons and just basically rushed that side and held that little corner because it was the half board edge to bottom corner. So there's a little bit in the corner where you can just do deploy. So he was getting like 12 points a turn, so he ended up getting there 13-7. Okay. We then have Austria's Marines versus England's Guard.
Guard should have it.
Guard should have that pretty comfortably. We have Austria's Necrons. I'm trying to read handwriting.
So we didn't talk that much about the Thousand Suns versus Demons. Both Nathan is trying to figure out
We don't have that.
what the writing is.
Sorry, it's their Necrons playing. It's our Necrons. We don't have that. What?
Was
This
it
makes
big?
sense.
Because he's a doctor. I think that looks like a doctor's
Yeah.
handwriting, man.
Screw it, Titus. I'm just going to show you.
This is the best part, is the sharing between nations of secrets so we can
Like,
read handwriting.
Sorry, it's not just me. I'm not.
What can I see? I am a doctor. Maybe I can hack.
Talk amongst yourselves.
What am I looking at?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm looking
This one?
yeah. They do not have knights.
That definitely looks like
It
knights.
looks like knights. So it's Necrons versus Knights. It's two factions we don't have.
It's Necrons versus Knights. Congratulations. Let's go through every
You know
other
what?
one.
I'm going to go round the tables and do this properly.
We're
'cause
going to be right back because that
I'm
looks
losing
like
my expert tag. It's not good.
So maybe Austria paired into some other team by
we're
accident.
going to pop over to a different team format real quick. And by different team format, we're going to pop over to Norway. Maybe we'll get through one pairing before Nathan gets this figured out. We have Chaos Demons so we're always going to start with Norway and then we'll pop over to Belgium. It'll be Chaos Demons into Gene Stealer Cult.
We've seen this matchup a couple of times at this tournament, so.
And then it's Death Watch into Chaos Space Marines.
Another good one for Belgium. Chaos Space Marines should be favored. Obliterators just kill Marines.
Then we have Necrons in a mirror, which feels like a draw.
Yeah.
Custodes into Imperial Knights, which actually feels Custodes favored.
It should be Custodes
Could be.
favored, but if the board is very open. On this deployment, sometimes the boards have just a massive shooting lane in the middle that custodies cannot go through terrain to another terrain. So that one, I think, if it's night stable, can be more towards only a small win for custodies instead of a big one.
And then we have Gene Stealer Colt into Custodies. They have one Warden Brick and then one Custodian Guard.
So I think this one should still be slightly GSC favored, but just slightly.
There are a lot of Terminators in this army for Belgium.
It doesn't necessarily mean that's bad.
No, I just mean there are a lot of Terminators
Because
in this army.
suddenly you do not wound on 2s with bombs, you wound them on 3s. It also changes a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, Wardens you also would wound on 3s, but the guard you.
And then we have a Thousand Suns mirror, which probably comes down to maybe skill level between the players, which
I would
feels like
always
Liam
give it to-
BSL.
I would
So
always give it to
Liam.
Liam BSL on the skill level.
Nothing against you, Sandra, but Liam is Liam. And then we have an Eldar mirror again, which feels like it's going to be a pivot point potentially for the round. And then finally we have Chaos Knights into Death Watch, which might be Chaos Knights favored.
Yeah, it looks like Belgium cracked the pairings with the caveat of Eldar Mirror.
Yeah.
So it should.
We do have a couple in there that look like Norway kind of pulled a good pairing, but
There's way more good pairings for
for
Belgium.
Belgium than for Norway. So do we figure out what the Knights are?
Yes. They showed me the wrong country. It was yesterday's
That explains a lot.
So, I go through the list. So, the first one I say will be England, the second one will be Austria. So, we have England CSM versus Austria's Orcs. That's an interesting one.
That does
It's
seem
quite drawy.
yeah.
CSM do not have resources to kill that many units. They're quite good at killing,
They can down as many tanks as they want.
but then
The squads inside, so it might be an issue of you want to indirect with all the like bolter shots that they do have against the squads, but it's whether those trucks are hidden. Yeah, so it's an interesting one. An
A
Orc
draw.
should probably get a draw out of that. As much as probably our CSM wants to beat it.
especially if orcs go first,
Yes,
they can just
just
entrap
push the blitz out of really threatening the objectives too badly.
anything important with
Yeah. We've got our England's NIDS versus Deathwatch. We've played that matchup quite a few times. NIDS can win that game. It's kind of drawy, so I put that down as a
On a-
pretty safe draw in this
on a
mission.
draw mission.
Yeah. The NIDS have some speed to threaten. They have great screening. They're very good at doing the cards. So, for example, our NIDS could easily sit on those two objectives, get 40, burn one at the end, so you get 45, and then let the Spore Mines do the thing. But then again, if he's got Desolation Marines, they can kill a lot of the little bugs. They can kill a lot of the...
If you can kill those biovores
You
too
can kill
and
the
stop
biovores.
all of that secondary passivity.
It's sometimes difficult to hit the biovores because you don't necessarily have the range, because in quarters, the ruin that you want to hide them in is not always towards the front.
It is 42 inches though.
It is, but actually, if the ruins, if you put the two biovores in the back corner,
Yeah.
But if they can hit you, sometimes it's just the Venga launcher, so he has a decent chance of killing
You
one.
can pop Feel No Pain then on that Biovore if you want it to
Yeah.
survive, and usually it survives. But it also forces the Biovores to be in the corner, and they can only spawn mines within 8 inches of them. So it also limits where you can put, because then you can spawn it into other corner. For
Yeah.
example, to
Quite
go in-
often, I found when I played the particular matchup is if you're not sure if you're going to go first or not, you actually reserve both biovores. So you would at least get to shoot 2 Spore Mines. And if they aren't necessarily in range there, you do get to shoot the ability to get maybe 3 Spore Mines off.
Nothing. I just had a breaking news update that Anthony might have 20-0'd a Demons player with CSM already into the round.
We'll
Okay,
see.
That's impressive. Going back through England, England's Thousand Suns versus Austria's Eldar list, or Eldari. Favors Thousand Suns.
Yeah, but it can also be quite swingy.
Yeah, especially in the
Still
more
Eldari.
draw. Yeah, but that's the one matchup that Vic has played to death.
Oh, they're
So
talking
he's
about
played
that being
that left, right, and
yesterday.
center.
Sorry, that breaking news update was wrong. Chat is confusing me with their breaking news updates.
I like how we're getting updates from somewhere else, even though we're here.
Yeah. Well, I can't be over there.
Yeah, true. Moving on, we have England's guard versus Necrons, similar to what we had before.
Drawish.
Little bit maybe in guard's favor for certain things, but it's a draw.
If you can slow things
I
down,
think
like
on this mission you have you basically need 3 inches movement to get onto the middle marker.
Yes, yeah.
So
I think it's one of those whoever's gets slightly better cards
Yeah.
in certain places.
and weirdly enough, in this deployment, I would say Necrons can be a little bit better on doing those.
Yeah, if they've got Transcendence Attack,
Yeah.
things like that, they're not easy for guard to put down. We then have England's guard versus GSC. Sorry, England's Eldar versus GSC. I would favor Manny in this matchup. He's played that matchup to death. He knows what he's doing. The double Wraith Knights helps a lot. The Avatar helps a lot in that. He's able to hold primary quite nicely.
well, what is the Gene Stealer Cult player going to do to the half damage and -1 damage models in that matchup?
But if he's smart in this particular mission, he maybe doesn't go for it.
Yeah.
He plays for an easier draw. It's very difficult to beat GSC because he has to go from holding. He'd usually beat GSC by holding 3 objectives to their 2. So he's always getting the extra bonuses on primary. Whereas in this one, he doesn't have to do that. He'd have to hold 4 objectives, which is not that easy for that to do, especially against GSC. So that's probably maybe a win, but it's going to probably be a smaller win than he's normally used to. So 12, 13 type thing. We've got England's Custodes versus Demons. As long as the England Custo player doesn't go crazy and let things get charged, multi-charged, then
It
it's
should be
usually
fine.
pretty much in Custodes.
And you also have to call abuses, which help out.
Yes, yeah. As well as the assassin helps you do cards, those kind of things. Josh has enough little things to just kind of go get the cards that he needs. I'd predict 12, 13 again. It's quite a drawing mission. If the demon wants to play for points, he can quite comfortably. We then have on the stream England's Death Watch versus Imperial Knights, which should be an Imperial Knight favor.
Yeah.
But it is a very, very heavy table. So the Imperial Knights do have to respect that Death Watch have great maneuverability, hammers in combat. If he's not careful, he needs to be. And I think on that table, because I can see at least 4 big L's in the middle, those 2 or 3 Titanic models are reducing effectiveness.
What does the Death Watch list look like? Because like, there's like a little bit of squeakiness depending on like if you have maybe the ability to put a lot of mortal wounds onto those Imperial Knights. Imperial Knights are usually more like 2 or 3 big guys than some little guys. And Oaths can help you out in those matchups, especially if you have Hectoclades. And you can pop 2 big knights maybe turn 1 if you have mortal wounds, or you can put a lot of those veteran kill teams or Proteus kill teams in them, right?
Yes, yeah. So like England's specific one is like triple veteran, Hellblaster squad, which is a bit different. We found it useful in certain things. We were with the Stern Guard for quite a long time for the mortals, but it would find if they didn't get to shoot twice, the damage output wasn't good enough. We actually went for no Proteus kill teams, which
I think
is an
this
option.
is a consensus among the teams to some extent. I think 2/3 of them didn't take Proteus kill teams.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. The Proteus kill teams are a lot better than normal veteran squad, but they're 130 points more.
Expensive, yes.
So it then works out 2 Proteus kill teams is the same as a veteran squad.
Three veteran
And a Hellblaster
squads.
squad.
Yeah, 3 veteran squads and a
60
speeder.
points. Yeah, exactly. So it's more depends what you're playing against.
Because I do know that Canada's Death Watch player kind of took it to a couple Imperial Knights lists because of assault cannons and oaths. You can just watch those knights go away, right?
Yes, you can. Whereas this one as well, they always have the Desolation Squad because theirs is by far the best. They've been able to wound things on 2+ against infantry. All the extra range in AP just makes them really small. And then you get some other tech pieces as well. Speed is useful. Add to the AP. Blast. There's a lot of blast in that list.
So Typhus, how do you think this one leans before we go to Nathan?
I think the pairings look quite good for England overall. Seems slightly favored when I look at it. I think they got their GSC into TS, which is good. They got their Thousand Suns into Elder, where I can imagine Vic can pull that through. But let's also remember that the Eldar player won the War Masters, so he's also no slouch when it comes at the game. And overall, it looks good. I think it should be England getting this one, but I can see some swingy matchups like Eldar versus GSC. You mentioned Manny knows how to play it, but at the same time, it's not really set in stone how that matchup goes when two top players face each other.
Yeah, for me, looking at that, I think it's going to be a draw. I would say England has 3 small wins. Austria has a potential good win in the Knights versus Deathwatch. And in this particular mission, those small wins are small and the draws are more prevalent. I think there's 4 pretty drawy games, 3 maybe small wins for England, 1 loss for England. So to me, unless the score starts spiking, it looks like a draw.
I can see that we've got France and Australia in as well. So we'll probably cover those and then be wrapping up
If they have time,
panel.
we can talk about the pairings with them.
Yeah. So I'll go grab the coaches from France and Australia. So we're not only talking about the pairings.
Yeah, you must be sick of us.
We'll see if they want to come over to us.
Yes.
Yeah, their pairings are up now, so we can chatter a little bit about it while we wait for them to come over. We can talk about how they feel about the
Is there a
process.
place for people at home to look at things?
So they can look at them on Best Coast Pairings.
Okay.
They do come in on Best Coast Pairings. If you go to the website,
You have
And
to find the event.
you have to find the WTC. It should be pretty easy to find.
Yes.
Just type WTC and then change your dates appropriately.
Actually, I think you need to type World Team Championship.
If you do
Right.
that,
You don't
also,
need to
then
type the whole thing. World Team will probably be enough.
you will have
Yes.
to deal with the same problem that we're dealing with, which is sometimes you have to wait for teams to get like their 50 staff members for some of these teams to like decide to
Do
put in
their
the pairings.
job. Yeah.
Definitely not going to call out anybody in particular, but I'm going to look at you later and I'm going to give you the eyes. But I do know that some of the staff from the event are also going around and entering them. Specifically, Diffie is going around and I think entering some of these pairings for the teams into BCP. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean you can't. Watching you, in case you're watching stream for some
Especially
reason.
we're 75 minutes almost into the round, so like, come on, you've
Well,
had enough
yeah.
time.
The first day, I won't lie, I was getting a little upset because we were like an hour and a half, almost 2 hours into the
Yes.
round, and only a third of the teams
Yeah.
had put in their pairings. And so I talked to a couple staff people, was like, hey, go put in your pairings. And then
Yeah.
Diffie also went around and got all of them in as well.
For the people at home who want to see them, for us talking about them, obviously it's super beneficial for them to be in on time.
Right, so you've got Denise from Team Australia coming up.
So Denise is going to come on over, buddy.
Hello, everyone.
Hi again.
You can barely hear me because my voice is dying.
Okay. Okay, so we couldn't get in anyone from France. Hi, Denise.
Hello, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Good to have you back.
I
You've
told
already
you I'd
been
be
on
back
the
on the
panel.
stream, right?
Yeah, we were looking forward to it. You're fun to have on stream. So you're gonna have to come a little closer.
Ah, can you hear me now? Excellent. I'm losing my voice, so
That's why we're getting you closer.
yeah.
We promise we won't bite. We promise. So how are you feeling? Pairings have happened. We're gonna walk through a couple of them with you, see how like thoughts and feelings are going. But overall, how are you feeling?
Feeling really good. You know, I think the pairings team paired us into a really solid position. There are a few French lists that we were, quite concerned about, and we were able to hold them back in pairings. So I'm interested to see how the players go, and hopefully they bring some good results.
Before we go into that, I need to ask, how's the team morale after yesterday?
Yeah,
When you were held up by Belgium, it was really tense game, really going down to the wire. So
It was actually a really good round. Really, really tight. And unfortunately couldn't push it into win territory, but we're all really quite happy with the high end of the draw. I mean, the players played well. A lot to learn from that. You know, we took that back to our pairings matrix and adjusted a few things. So I'm really keen to see how the guys go today, and our strategy has changed and made us a bit more potent because of it. So I'm really happy. Yeah.
Learn from stumbles, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah.
So why don't we I'm gonna have you pick the first one that we go over. What pairing are you most excited for from the pairing situation so far?
There's a few good ones. Jeremy Martino, our CSM player into the Eldar, is a good one. He's currently on stream at the moment, but the matchup is quite a heavy table and a good table for him. So that's going to be really exciting. I mean, classically, the Eldar do quite well into that kind of thing, as we saw in the War Master final or the finals. But yeah, I'm keen to see what Jeremy does with that. Liam once again has found himself stuck into GSC, so he did really well yesterday. His run was like Eldar GSC and now more GSC. So I'm keen to see that. And one thing that some teams, and including Poland, are taking is a guard list. And this is our first matchup into one of those potent guard lists, and we got our Nid player Brody into it. So that'll be really exciting to see on a very dense table where the Rogel Dawns can't really push and move too far. So that'll be really exciting to see how the guard player manages that. So there's a few. Yeah, there's a few.
And I'm going to ask it. Yeah. Are you nervous about any of the matchups? And which matchup are you a little nervous about, maybe?
Yeah, we had to give a few players some hard games. So Josh McMillan into the French captain Olivier on the Black Templars. Quite a unique list. They've gone Templars over something like Deathwatch. And that's going to be a really grindy, struggly game. But someone had to jump on it, right? Like someone really had to say, because that. Quite frankly, that list is one of the more oppressive combat lists at the event. Yeah. So we hope Josh can bring that through. But I'm really happy we got him into it versus anything else. So yeah, that's the one I'll be watching closely. And Will's got a tough fight against the CSM as well with his knights on a very dense table. So yeah, they're the ones I'll be watching really closely. So
those are really exciting. Are you excited, jazzed for us to start Swiss?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I said it was it yesterday or the day before I was on?
Time is a mystery.
Yeah, it's all gone. But one of the great things about coaching is you literally get the best seats in the house for this. So, it's cool. It's cool. You can hear my voice is dying. My feet are hurting, but I'm excited to be here.
I feel like that's the WTC experience, right? Like my feet hurt, my back hurts,
man.
My voice is shot.
Yeah.
I'm a little hungover sometimes from yesterday. Eating a little bit too much pizza and too many chips.
Way too many carbohydrates, right? Yeah. I need a salad for like the next 4 days. Yeah.
No, I definitely got an ordering sheet for staff, and I was like, salad, please. Some greens and some fruits and veggies in my body.
Yeah, that's
just
it.
A little bit.
I've even seen some players with like the yoga mats, like the anti-fatigue mats. Real smart.
I definitely was talking to Benny from your staff. I was like,
Norway
brought yoga mats and neck coolers, and that feels like the right move.
That's it, man. But no, I'm excited for it. I actually have to rush back there because it's chaotic. But thank you guys.
Let's go back. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
No worries. Love
your
your
work.
work.
Hopefully we have you again.
We'll see you guys in the finals.
Yeah. Oh, in the finals, I like it.
Right, it seems that we've already got Typhus and Nathan running around, looking at the matchups, looking
Nathan's
to
coming
find
back
what's
to us.
more exciting.
He's got updates, maybe something interesting. And then after Nathan gives us an update, we'll go to our break so that you guys can watch the live games be played on the War Games live stream.
Yeah, well, we've got England versus Austria. We've got on French Wargaming 2 games of France versus Australia. And Target Priority has a game of Germany versus USA. And El Cobrador, the Spanish stream, has a game from Spain versus Netherlands.
Yeah, actually, every single one of those streams is actually one of the fun matchups. So you're try and have 4 screens open at once and try and watch all of them if you can.
So what do we got so far from an early stage of that England-Austria situation?
Yeah, I just mostly went around and looked at what some of the particular Austrian lists are. I didn't get much of a chance to look at them last night. I quite like the Imperial Knight list that Austria have got. It's double Castellan. Yeah.
Atropos?
So it's Canis, and then the 2 massive knockoffs of Canis.
The Atropos.
Atropos, yeah. So he's got 2 of those and Canis. So he actually doesn't have the -1 damage warden that he's putting on things. It's 3 little baby knights, 2 massive knights, and then 1 Canis. Canis I think is the best Imperial Knight.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. Yeah, that's an interesting one. So he doesn't have the defensive buffs that some Chaos Imperial Knights have, but he's got the damage output. Yeah.
Although he's up against the table by the looks of it.
Yes, the
So
table does not.
It's
It's not
gonna
helping
be
him.
very interesting game.
And I think Naz has almost dropped one of the big guys. He's on 4 wounds left. So that's an interesting one. Obviously, you can watch that on stream right now. I should.
So we're
Otherwise,
feeling
the rest of the
kinda
land. Yeah,
good.
it's okay. Yeah, this is always one. You can look at pairings, you can look at matrix, and hope, oh, this maybe looks like a draw. That's where we maybe are looking at. But then there's a reason some teams do better than others. There's that little bit of player skill. Not to say that Austria doesn't have the same player skill as England, but sometimes when people roll dice, there's a massive luck element. Sometimes that just happens. To be honest, winning this event, you can do all the prep work, have the right armies, the best players, that might get you to a podium. Winning is when you play the other top team and the 3 coin flip games where we've said it in the past, oh, somebody's getting 12, somebody's getting 8. It's winning all 3 of those. Or this is so much better if we go first. It's winning all of those.
Yeah.
We had it in 2019 versus USA. We had 3 proper coin flips when the game was much more 0 or 20 in that game. And that's why we ended up getting a massive score against USA. But it flipped on us last year when we had 3 coin flips against USA and we only got 2. We only got 1 of them. So we ended up losing. So that's how you win or lose this event.
You can be the best in the world, but you still need a little bit of luck.
You need a little bit of
Yes.
the luck on your side. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So we're going to be wrapping up, I think. We've already mentioned which games you can watch on which streams. So do that and then come back to watch us at 1:15.
We'll tell you if we were right or not.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So thanks, guys. We've had Stats Dad on. Typhus is already gone. Nathan and myself, Joker from Contact Lost, and Tweak on the tech desk. See you later.
Well, why?